The Middle Ages, spanning roughly from the 5th to the 15th century, was a period of profound social, political, and religious transformation in Europe. Within this complex tapestry of change, the lives of women were intricately woven, shaped by societal expectations, religious doctrines, and the rigid class structure of feudal society. To understand the roles of queens, accused witches, and peasant women, we must first set the stage of the medieval world they inhabited. Our exploration focuses primarily on Western Europe during the High Middle Ages, 11th to 13th centuries, a time of relative stability and growth following the turbulent early Middle Ages. This period saw the consolidation of feudalism, the rise of centralized monarchies, the increasing power of the Catholic Church, and the gradual emergence of urban centers and universities. Several key developments during this time directly impacted women's lives. Beginning in the late 11th century, these church reforms emphasized clerical celibacy and sought to purify the church, inadvertently leading to a more rigid stance on women's roles in religious life. While primarily a male endeavor, the Crusades affected women by altering family structures, exposing Europe to new ideas, and sometimes providing opportunities for women to manage estates in their husband's absence. The rise of courtly love literature. This genre, popularized in the 12th century, idealized women in theory but often reinforced restrictive gender roles in practice. Documents like the Magna Carta, 1215, began to codify rights, though primarily for men, setting precedents that would eventually impact women's legal status. Medieval society's perception of women was complex and often contradictory. The prevailing view, influenced heavily by church doctrine, positioned women as inferior to men, both physically and morally. This perspective was rooted in interpretations of biblical texts, particularly the story of Eve's temptation in the Garden of Eden. However, the reality was more nuanced. While officially subservient to their husbands, queens often wielded significant behind-the-scenes power. They were expected to be pious, fertile, and diplomatically savvy, acting as intercessors and sometimes as regents. The concept of witchcraft evolved throughout the Middle Ages. Early medieval law often treated magic as superstition rather than heresy. However, by the late Middle Ages, accusations of witchcraft became more frequent and dangerous, particularly for older, unmarried women or those with knowledge of herbal medicine. Comprising the vast majority of the female population, peasant women's lives were primarily defined by hard work. While their contributions to family and community were essential, they had little social or political power. The Catholic Church was the dominant religious and often political force in medieval Europe, significantly influencing women's lives. The Church provided one of the few alternatives to marriage for women through convents. Nuns could achieve a degree of education and autonomy unavailable to most secular women. The Church's teachings on women's nature, sexuality, and proper behavior permeated all levels of society, shaping laws and social norms. Some noble women, particularly queens, exercised influence through religious patronage, founding monasteries and commissioning religious works. From the 12th century onward, female mystics like Hildegard of Bingen achieved recognition and a degree of authority through their visions and writings. In the secular realm, women's relationship with power structures varied greatly by social class. Noble women could wield significant influence through marriage alliances, estate management, and sometimes direct rule. Urban women might participate in guilds or manage businesses, though usually with more restrictions than their male counterparts. Peasant women had little direct interaction with broader power structures, their lives primarily governed by local customs and the immediate needs of survival. Lady Eleanor of Winchester. Born into a noble family in 1185, Eleanor was educated in a convent before being married at 15 to Lord Robert of Winchester, a powerful baron. Now 30, she's been widowed for 2 years. Tall and graceful, with long auburn hair often concealed under ornate headdresses. Her green eyes reflect both intelligence and determination. Highly educated for her time, Eleanor is fluent in Latin and French, with a keen interest in history and law. She's ambitious and shrewd, using her charm and wit to navigate the treacherous waters of medieval politics. As a childless widow, Eleanor faces immense pressure to either remarry or enter a convent. She's determined to maintain control of her late husband's estate, but faces opposition from male relatives and the church. Adept at estate management, diplomacy, and the intricacies of courtly etiquette, she's also a skilled falconer, a hobby that allows her to assert her independence. Agnes the herbalist. Born around 1165 in a small village near Winchester, Agnes learned herbalism from her grandmother. She's a widow with 2 adult children. Of average height with a sturdy build, Agnes has graying hair and keen brown eyes. Her hands are rough from work but gentle in their healing. Practical and compassionate, Agnes possesses a deep understanding of nature and human suffering. She's cautious but resolute, standing firm in her beliefs despite growing suspicion from religious authorities. Agnes walks a fine line between being a respected healer and a suspected witch. Her knowledge, especially of women's health and childbirth, is both sought after and feared. Expert in herbal medicine, midwifery, and basic surgery, she can read and write in English, a rare skill for a woman of her class. Matilda, the miller's daughter. Born in 1199, Matilda has lived her entire life in the same small village. She's the eldest of 5 children and has been helping in the mill since childhood. Petite with a wiry strength from physical labor, she has curly blonde hair, often dusty from mill work, and curious blue eyes. Inquisitive and imaginative, Matilda dreams of a life beyond her village. She's hardworking and quick to learn, with a natural talent for numbers that helps in the family business. As a peasant woman, Matilda's options are severely limited. She's expected to marry soon and become a housewife, but yearns for more education and experiences. Adept at all aspects of milling, from grinding grain to maintaining the mill mechanism. She's also good with animals and has a knack for storytelling. King John of England, 1166 to 1216. The youngest son of Henry II, John became king in 1199. His reign has been marked by military failures, including the loss of Normandy to France. Intelligent but unpopular, John is known for his cunning and cruelty. He's deeply resentful of the restrictions placed on him by the Magna Carta. John's attempts to reclaim power threaten Lady Eleanor's position and indirectly affect Agnes and Matilda. Pope Innocent III, 1161 to 1216. One of the most powerful and influential popes in history, Innocent III has shaped European politics and religious life since his election in 1198. Brilliant and ambitious, he's expanded papal authority and launched the Fourth Crusade. He's a strong advocate for church reform and the suppression of heresy. His policies and decrees, particularly regarding women's roles and the pursuit of heretics, impact all 3 main characters. Saint Francis of Assisi, 1181–1182–1226. Born into a wealthy family, Francis renounced his inheritance to live a life of poverty and preach. He founded the Franciscan order in 1209. Charismatic and deeply spiritual, Francis challenges the materialistic values of his time. His teachings emphasize simplicity, charity, and harmony with nature. While not directly involved, Francis's growing influence represents changing currents in religious thought that affect our characters, particularly Agnes. Father Thomas, the local parish priest, suspicious of Agnes and protective of his authority. He's in his 50s, conservative, and deeply influenced by church hierarchy. Lord William, Eleanor's brother-in-law, who believes he should inherit the Winchester estate. Ambitious and resentful of Eleanor's capability. Emma, Matilda's best friend and confidant, a fellow villager who's more content with traditional village life. The story begins on a crisp autumn evening in 1215, at a lavish feast in the Great Hall of Winchester Castle. Tapestries depicting hunting scenes and biblical stories adorn the stone walls, while rushes mixed with sweet herbs cover the floor. The air is thick with the scent of roasted meats, wood smoke, and beeswax candles. Lady Eleanor, resplendent in a deep blue gown trimmed with ermine, moves gracefully among her guests. Her hair is concealed beneath a fashionable wimple, and a golden circlet denotes her status. As she exchanges pleasantries with barons, churchmen, and merchants, her keen ears catch snippets of conversation about King John's latest movements. A newly arrived knight, his tunic still travel-stained, whispers news of the king's growing resentment towards the Magna Carta's restrictions. Eleanor's face betrays nothing, but her mind races with the implications. As she turns to give instructions to a servant, she overhears 2 noble women gossiping. A woman alone, managing such an estate? It's not natural. Indeed, she should remarry or take the veil, for propriety's sake. Eleanor's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly as she continues her rounds, more determined than ever to secure her position. 2 months after the feast, a royal messenger arrives at Winchester Castle with a proclamation. King John, citing ancient customs and the need to strengthen the crown's holdings, declares that the Winchester estate should revert to royal control in the absence of a male heir. The messenger, avoiding Eleanor's piercing gaze, explains that she has 1 month to vacate or contest the decision. This threat strikes at the heart of Eleanor's power and independence. She realizes that this move is not just about her lands, but a test of the king's ability to circumvent the Magna Carta's protections. The stakes are personal and political, setting the stage for a battle of wits and wills. Recognizing the need for both worldly and mystical wisdom, Eleanor disguises herself as a commoner and seeks out Agnes the herbalist. In Agnes's humble cottage, thick with the scent of drying herbs and simmering potions, Eleanor finds an unexpected ally. Agnes, drawing on folk wisdom and her keen understanding of human nature, advises Eleanor on navigating the treacherous waters ahead. This meeting forges a connection between the world of nobility and village life, highlighting the often overlooked power of women's networks. Impressed by Matilda's quick wit during a visit to the village mill, Eleanor offers the girl a position as her personal servant. Matilda, seeing an opportunity to expand her horizons, eagerly accepts despite her family's reservations. Her arrival at the castle opens her eyes to a world of politics, learning, and possibility she never imagined. Through Matilda's fresh perspective, we gain insight into the complexities of castle life and the challenges facing a woman in Eleanor's position. As Eleanor's association with Agnes becomes known, the local priest, Father Thomas, grows increasingly suspicious. Jealous of Agnes's influence and threatened by women operating outside traditional authority structures, he publicly accuses her of witchcraft. The accusation sends shockwaves through the village and puts Eleanor in a precarious position. This event highlights the dangerous intersection of folk medicine, official religion, and politics in medieval society. Realizing that she must confront King John directly, Eleanor embarks on a perilous journey to London. She leaves Matilda in charge of the daily management of the estate, a significant responsibility that will test the young woman's capabilities. Eleanor's journey, fraught with the dangers of medieval travel, provides a vivid portrayal of the English countryside and the complex social hierarchy of the time. In Eleanor's absence, a papal legate arrives at Winchester, bearing news from Rome that could influence King John's decision. Matilda, drawing on her natural intelligence and her newfound understanding of court politics, manages to glean crucial information from the legate's entourage. She learns that Pope Innocent III, concerned about maintaining a balance of power in England, may be willing to intervene on behalf of nobles threatened by John's actions. This information, if used correctly, could tip the scales in Eleanor's favor. Matilda's clever handling of the situation showcases her growth and the potential for social mobility, however limited, in medieval society. Agnes, accused of witchcraft, faces potential execution. The trial becomes a microcosm of the larger power struggles at play. Eleanor must use all her political acumen and the information gathered by Matilda to sway the proceedings, knowing that her own fate is tied to the outcome. Matilda, having grown in confidence and understanding, plays a crucial role in gathering witness testimony and popular support for Agnes. Agnes herself must walk a fine line, defending her knowledge and practices without appearing to challenge church authority. The trial scenes provide a vivid depiction of medieval justice, the role of the church in daily life, and the precarious position of women with knowledge or power. The sun rises over the Mediterranean, its golden rays glinting off the bronze-clad ships of two mighty empires, Rome and Carthage. As the Roman consul Gaius Duilius paces the deck of his flagship, he turns to his second-in-command. "Today, we change the course of history," Duilius declares, his voice steady despite the looming battle. "Carthage has ruled these waters for too long. It's time Rome takes its place as the true power of the Mediterranean." His subordinate nods grimly. "But sir, our men have never fought a naval battle before. The Carthaginians are masters of the sea." Duilius smiles, patting the strange new device attached to the ship's bow. "That's why we have this. The Corvus will turn their strength into their weakness." As the Carthaginian fleet appears on the horizon, tension mounts. The Roman ships close in, and suddenly, with a thunderous crash, the Corvus slams down onto a Carthaginian vessel. Roman legionaries pour across, turning the naval battle into the kind of close-quarters combat they excel at. This moment at the Battle of Mylae in 260 BC marks a turning point not just in the First Punic War, but in the entire trajectory of Roman history. Rome's innovative adaptation of land warfare tactics to naval combat showcases the ingenuity and determination that would fuel their rise to empire. Through a combination of Eleanor's political maneuvering, Matilda's grassroots support, and Agnes's dignified defense of her practices, the three women triumph. Agnes is acquitted, and Eleanor secures a decree from both the king and the papal legate confirming her rights to the Winchester estate. The experience forges a strong bond between the three women, transcending the rigid class boundaries of medieval society. Eleanor offers Agnes protection and patronage, while Matilda, having proven her worth, is given opportunities for further education and responsibility. Eleanor hosts a celebration that includes not just nobles, but also respected townspeople. Agnes is present as an honored guest, and Matilda helps manage the event with newfound confidence. As the women share a private moment away from the festivities, their conversation hints at the slow but significant social changes to come, while acknowledging the long road ahead for women in medieval society. Lady Eleanor's role as the manager of the Winchester estate offers a window into the complexities of feudal administration. One field would be planted with winter crops, another with spring crops, and the third left fallow to restore fertility. This system will be crucial in Eleanor's decision-making regarding the estate's productivity. Eleanor will preside over the manorial court, settling disputes between tenants, enforcing local bylaws, and collecting fines. This showcases her authority and the intricate social relationships within the feudal system. The narrative will explore the reciprocal duties between Eleanor and her tenants, including labor services, payment of rents in kind or money, and military service obligations to the crown. Conflicts arising from the strict royal forest laws, which restricted hunting and gathering in designated areas, will illustrate the tensions between noble privileges and peasant needs. Religion permeated every aspect of medieval life, and our story will reflect this reality. For instance, Agnes might pray to Saint Hildegard of Bingen, a renowned female herbalist and abbess. The power attributed to holy relics will be demonstrated, perhaps through a pilgrimage or the use of a relic in healing rituals. The threat and consequences of excommunication will be explored, showcasing the Church's power over both spiritual and secular lives. The contrasting experiences of Eleanor, Agnes, and Matilda will illustrate the vast differences in daily life for women of different social standings. Eleanor. Diet. Elaborate meals featuring exotic spices, meats, and wines. Clothing. Fine wool and silk garments, with detailed embroidery and jewels for special occasions. Living conditions. Stone castle with private chambers, tapestries for insulation, and glazed windows. Activities. Overseeing household management, engaging in needlework, reading religious texts, and participating in courtly entertainments. Agnes. Simpler fare based on grains, vegetables, and occasionally meat or fish. Homespun wool or linen garments, with a simple head covering for married women. Thatched roof cottage with a central hearth, earthen floor, and few possessions. Tending to herbs, providing medical care, participating in village gatherings, and attending local church services. Matilda. Coarse bread, pottage, thick soup, ale, and seasonal vegetables. Rough woolen garments, often hand-me-downs or repatched. Shared one-room dwelling with family. Animals often housed in the same structure. Hard physical labor in fields or mill, household chores, caring for younger siblings, and occasional village festivals. Herbal preparations, including the use of plants like yarrow for wound healing or chamomile for digestive issues. The belief in the four humors, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, and their influence on health and temperament. The integration of prayers, charms, and religious rituals in medical treatments. Conflicts between traditional folk healing and the new theories emerging from medical schools, particularly in relation to women's health and childbirth. Descriptions of the mill's operation, including the water wheel, millstones, and gearing systems. The mill is a crucial center for grain processing, with explanations of how millers collected a portion of the grain as payment, multure. The miller's unique status in village hierarchy, often viewed with a mix of respect for their essential role and suspicion due to opportunities for dishonest weighing. Tensions arising from the lord's ownership of the mill and the requirement for tenants to use it, illustrating broader issues of feudal control. These cultural, social, and mythical elements of Roman wars had a profound and lasting impact on the course of history. The Roman model of military expansion, cultural assimilation, and imperial administration influenced subsequent empires, from Byzantium to European colonial empires. The integration of religious practices into military and political operations set a precedent for the fusion of secular and religious power, which characterized much of European history. The ideal of the leader as a skilled military commander persisted for millennia, influencing figures from Charlemagne to Napoleon. The evolution from the citizen soldier to a professional army had lasting repercussions on how later societies conceptualized the rights and duties of citizens. Rome's focus on military innovation spurred advancements in engineering, metallurgy, and logistics that benefited many aspects of society. Constantinople's defense system, based on Roman military technology, resisted for centuries before finally succumbing to the Ottomans, marking the end of the medieval era. The resurgence of interest in classical culture during the Renaissance was largely inspired by accounts of Rome's military glories, influencing art, literature, and political thought.